ago. But she'd know her Uncle Edward anywhere. He was asleep at his port, the drone of his snores so familiar she could picture the vibration of his thick lips in her mind's eye, the spittle clinging to the corners of his mouth. She didn't linger, but left her uncle to his slumber, shimmying back down the same way she'd gone up, but in reverse, foot under hand, her legs dangling as she searched out the thickest branches, testing her weight against each one. Of all the things she'd longed for in the years after they'd left London, all the dreams she'd had during the long nights spent shivering in her bed in their draughty cottage in Herefordshire, her 11-year-old heart breaking, of all the people she'd missed with the deep, aching misery of a wounded child, her Uncle Edward hadn't been one of them. Giles had had a perfectly respectable reason for calling on Lord Stanhope this evening, a proper, honourable, gentlemanly reason, as befit a proper, honourable, gentlemanly, gentleman. He'd come here to... Damn it, why had he come here tonight? It had something to do with a woman, or a lady, one or the other. He couldn't recall now, because somehow the evening had taken a disastrous turn. A disastrous, drunken turn. That wasn't supposed to happen, though perhaps he should have anticipated it, as Stanhope did serve an excellent port. That was the best that could be said of Stanhope. The worst that could be said of him was that he'd blathered on about one thing and another at such tiresome lengths Giles had been obliged to keep drinking, his brain growing murkier with every word out of his host's mouth. "She's such a great beauty, Basingstoke. Looks just like her mother, but with the Stanhope blue eyes." Blue eyes. Blue eyes. Yes, that sounded familiar. He'd come to see Stanhope because of... something to do with blue eyes. But no sooner had he seized on the blue eyes than Stanhope began going on about horses, of all things. "It's rather like that pretty pair of matched bays of yours, eh, Basingstoke?" Stanhope had leaned closer, his hot, sour breath wafting over Giles's face. "Nothing but the finest breeding stock will do for a duke." "Wait." Giles paused on the sidewalk at the bottom of the steps. Blue eyes, breeding stock, and... Damn it! He almost had it, but it was hovering just out of reach. "My Susanna is the finest filly in London." Susanna! By God, that was it. He'd come here tonight to ask permission to court Lady Susanna Stanhope. Not quite the thing, really, dipping so deeply into his cups while courting. He was meant to be besotted, not just sotted. Still, he'd gotten the thing done. He'd professed his admiration and undying devotion, and all that nonsense, then declared his intentions toward Lady Susanna, and Stanhope had said... something. He couldn't recall what exactly, his head being all muddled with port. But Stanhope was hardly going to refuse him, was he? Every nobleman in London was angling after Lady Susanna Stanhope. But he was the only duke, and Stanhope wanted to see his daughter made a duchess. Why, he could have cast up his accounts all over the dining-room table, and Stanhope still would have handed his daughter over with a smile. So, he'd won his bride, and was the happiest of men in London tonight. Wasn't he? Yes, of course he was. He'd made up his mind to wed this year, and Lady Susanna was certain to be declared this season's belle. It went without saying that nothing less than society's most perfect diamond would do for the Duke of Basingstoke. He was the happiest, and the drunkest, of men, and utterly besotted with his future bride. Or